Today, there's so much in our lives that influences us, our environment, the people around us. Sometimes we don't even know what's influencing us, and that's what we're here to talk about. Welcome to the Influence Today podcast with Chet Tart and Terry Lyle.
Welcome to another episode of Influence Today with Chet Tart and Terry Lyles, and our guest today is David Novak. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Chet.
David
to it.
was the CEO of Yum Foods. If you don't know what Yum Foods is, everyone probably tasted it at one time. Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Pizza Hut.
Right.
Anything else?
Nope, those are the big three.
They're the big
Plenty
three.
of opportunity with those.
So we talk about influence, and we talk about things that influence you. So could you go back a little bit in history and talk about how you got started and what influenced you, and maybe who influenced you, had an influence on your life?
Well, I had a very interesting childhood, which I think had a huge impact on my life. My dad was a government surveyor, and he would survey some territory with a surveying party. Then we'd hook up the government truck to the back of the trailer, and then we'd go on to the next place. So I lived in small towns up and down the United States, and I'd have to check into new schools every 3 months. And my mom would check me in, and she'd say, "David, you better make some friends because we're leaving." And so that was very, I didn't know it at the time, but it was really a blessing. First of all, I thought everybody did what I was doing. I never really thought disadvantaged. I thought everybody lived in a trailer. I had a good time. We moved from town to town with our family because the other surveyors moved with us. But I think it really helped me go into new situations, size up people, decide who I needed to become friends with, who were the good people, who were the people maybe I needed to stay away from. And I think that really influenced me and helped my people skills throughout my career. So I really believe that my mom and dad and the influence that they had, my dad's job, his support for me, he was the guy that always kind of raised the bar on me, and my mom was my chief cheerleader. And I think that moving around really had a big impact on my career.
Did any place that you lived had an impact on you? I mean, observing people, observing the neighborhood. When you move across the country, people have different
Well, I'm probably one of the
cultures.
only people in the world that lived in Dodge City, Kansas twice.
Twice?
Yeah, that's famous where the Boot Hill is and all that, and Marshall Dillon and all that. So anyway, I remember that very vividly because I had, my favorite teacher, my favorite coach, Coach Coy and Mrs. Anschultz. And they both were very focused on me, made me feel like I could do anything I wanted to do in my life. And when I left, the second time, I mean, they both said, "Gee, we wish we could really follow you in your life." And but they were really special. And I remember Dodge City, Kansas in a fond way because of them.
But it sounds to me like those smaller towns like Dodge City does have an effect on you more than if you move to Detroit or Cleveland. Would that be correct?
Well, I think it can be a real confidence booster because when you're living in small towns, you don't have a lot of competition. So I would go in and I play Little League Baseball and I hit 3 home runs and I thought I was destined for the major leagues. Then when my dad got what my mom called his first permanent job where we actually lived in a bigger city, I went to Kansas City. It was a rude awakening because there were a lot of kids that could hit the baseball like me and play like me and shoot basketballs like me. So it kind of brought me into the vicious world of competition.
So Terry, you're a coach. So would you pay attention to the fact that living in a small town like that, some people want to get out of it, but you should really pay attention to the environment, the people you surround yourself, and how important it is to you? Would you say so?
Absolutely. And I've lived in some small towns and large towns as well, and they all had impact on my life. And even in a large town, I think it becomes a small town, becomes your village. Because before the internet, especially, back when we're talking, you only knew people you saw.
Right.
Now we live in a global village.
Right.
You can see and talk to people all over the world. So it does have an impact. And I think something you said was really important is, the influence of your parents on you and how important that was. Right. Stability, even though you moved constantly.
Right.
And that stability is huge in parenting and growing. And I think even in business as leaders, we have to have some internal true north inside of us that stabilize on a foundation.
Yeah, Terry, I moved every 3 months, but I took the surveying party and their families with me. So I basically moved my neighborhood with me,
That's
and it was
good.
a race to the next trailer court
Sure,
and who
sure.
was going to get the best spot. But I found, and whether you live in a big city, small town, you're one really good friend from having a good life.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you make that first relationship and you have that pal that you can pal around with, you know, all of a sudden it's a lot more fun. But
It is.
until you have that friend, until you have that association, there's a lot of anxiety that goes with it. But one of the things that I did learn from that experience was how to work through the anxieties that come with new situations. You know, whether you're giving a huge speech to 13,000 people or whether you're going to a meeting with other CEOs, you know, you work through those anxieties and, you know, you move on.
And it gives you the confidence, you know, and that's the foundation. Because kids today, if they don't grow up with confidence in themselves and their abilities, that can be a huge hindrance to
Yeah,
them.
my mom and dad, they both gave me tremendous confidence. My dad coached my little league teams. My mom, she was with me the whole way. You know,
That's
I remember
awesome.
giving speeches in Knob Noster, Missouri, in a speech contest. My mom is there. I'm giving it on idealism in America, and you know, we still can't believe that I didn't win that thing. You know,
Right, of
but she
course.
was there.
Of
You know,
course.
and you know, but I had very supportive parents, and I think when you have that, that's such a tremendous blessing. And I
It
think
is.
for all your listeners who have kids, you know, if you can really reach out to your kids and be there. My
Yep.
parents were always there for me and still are. I mean, when I go on Squawk Box or I write a book or I do, you know, it doesn't matter. They'll get on the phone and go, boy, that was the best you've ever been. You know, I don't know if I was or not, but they've always made me feel that way.
Yeah,
So
it's
one
awesome.
of, so one of the core values that you have is recognition, and you got it from your parents. Did you realize that as you went through high school and college and then get out in the workforce and notice, hey, this is a big deal when you recognize somebody for doing something?
You know, I didn't really, I think I intuitively did it because I learned to say thank you. I mean, the most powerful words in business and in life, I think, are thank you. So it was part of what made me me, you know, in terms of how I was raised. But when I ran operations for Pepsi-Cola Company, you know, one of the things I did is I'd go out and I would meet with the front line. And I would do roundtables. I'd sit at a table like this, and you know, 8 or 9 people, and I'd ask them what's working, what's not working. And so one time I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm talking to a group of route salesmen. And the route salesmen are the key people at Pepsi. They
Right.
you know, they go in, get the distribution, build the customer relationships, go up and down the street, and you know, really make sure Pepsi has the point of purchase displays and all that. So I was talking about merchandising. Tell me about merchandising. Well, everybody started raving about this guy, like directly across from me, like Chet, you know, saying, oh man, Bob is the best merchandiser I've ever known. You want to know about merchandising, you ask Bob. And, you know, so you know, everybody's raving about Bob. And I look down at the end of the table and he's crying. And I said, Bob, why are you crying? People are heaping all this praise on you. He says, well, listen, he says, I've been in this company for 47 years. I'm retiring in 2 weeks, and I didn't know people felt this way about me.
Wow.
And
You're
you
like,
were
Bob,
doing-
before you retire, can you tell me everything you know?
You know, but he was like,
You were new at the job at the time?
yeah, I was relatively new
Right.
at Pepsi in that specific job, and I went out to talk to the front line to learn from them, to understand what the issues were. But that hit me in the gut. And I said to him, from that point on, I said, listen, you know what? I am absolutely going to focus on recognition as the number one behavior that I drive on any team I lead or any organization I have the privilege of leading. And I'm going to make it the predominant how we work together principle. And I tell you what, little did I know that I really discovered the secret weapon, you know, I know in my leadership. Because I really believe that recognition is a tremendous skill that you need to master. If you master that skill, you can have huge impact on people. You can let them know you're watching, and you can motivate them to do things that they never thought they could ever do. And I have made recognition my number one thing that I focus on. I'm still focusing on it. You know, just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I did a recognition training video for my new company. I started a company called Ogo Lead, which is a digital leadership company.
Right.
And but I did a master class basically on recognition. You know, why it's important, how to do it, how to make it a part of your life. And I literally believe that if you could get every business in America to teach people what I teach in that hour program, and then we have self-reflection exercises after each of the episodes, it would change the world. it would absolutely change what's going on in business. 80% of employees go to work and they're not engaged.
Right. Gallup has said that. Yes,
70%.
Yeah.
And 80% say that their supervisors don't recognize them for what they do.
Do you think it's because they can't, because it's not in them, or you train them to do that?
I don't think that people get, I got trained on how to make presentations, how to make quality product, how to finance for non-financial executives. I got trained on a lot of things. No training in the most sophisticated companies in the world on recognition. So it's a big gap. So people don't really know how to do it. There's lots of reasons why people don't do it. But the fact of the matter is there's two reasons why people leave their jobs. Number one, they don't feel recognized for what they do. They don't feel appreciated. And number two, they don't get along with their boss. So both those things are related. Because you want to feel appreciated, and you don't really want to work for a boss today. You want a coach.
Right.
You're a performance coach.
Yep.
That's what really gets people. When people know you care about them, they'll start caring about you.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow. So even in one of your podcasts, by the way, you do podcasts. We need to let you know that it's called the same thing. Ogo
it's
Leader.
you go to ogolead.com and hit the menu, and the podcast will show up.
We were talking with Jamie Dimon. And you were talking about the fact that, I listened to the whole thing, but what really hit me was the bus trip.
Yeah.
He goes to the offices and talks to people on buses and gets to have beers with them and things like that.
Jamie was on our board. And, that's one of the things I did as well. We would go on bus trips with customers, and we go into different...
With customers?
We did it with customers. And then they wouldn't know which company we were with or which bands, and then we'd go back on the bus and we'd talk to them about what they saw and what they liked. And, But Jamie knows the power of a shared experience. When you can take your management team out and you can spend time together and you get close to the front line and you understand what the barriers are and what the issues are that they have, then you can use all the power you have to go back and solve those problems for your people. And I think that's what Jamie does in spades. He's one of the best leaders in the world. But if I've also done podcasts with Gary Kelly, who's the CEO of Southwest Airlines. But he's very focused on culture, treating people with respect and value and recognition. There isn't one leader that I know who's really, really good at what they do that doesn't understand the importance of really relating to the front line, appreciating what they do, and recognizing their performers when they do the job well.
When you started in this business, I don't think the culture was a word that's being used now. It's used over and over and over again. And it's sad that we have to train and teach people that.
Yeah.
When you started, never heard the word culture. We just did the right thing.
Yeah, I never liked the word culture.
Okay.
Culture sounds too much like a germ to me. It's
same
like
with
bacteria,
leadership. It's overused, correct?
It's sort of a buzzword. What I believe culture is your work environment. How you work together. What are the behaviors that you want to see?
Okay.
Identify what I always tell people is look at your business. What are the behaviors you want to see on your team or in your company? Make sure everybody knows what those behaviors are. And then recognize the heck out of them when you see them. And guess what? You're going to see those behaviors a lot more often. And so I'm not one that ever really believed in publishing your values. That was too esoteric for me.
Putting on the wall?
Yeah, we did it, but it's how we work together. Real simple. People can understand that. Values are something I think CEOs a lot of times dream up and write it and laminate it and put it in their corner office, and people don't even know what they are, okay? But we actually trained everybody on our how we work together principles.
It sounds easy, and it sounds, hey, this is how you get people and recognize them. Did you ever have any stumbling blocks with people that you just said, doesn't belong in this culture, and they weren't willing to play ball?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier, recognition was a big part of what we were all about, and we did all kinds of fun recognition. I gave away rubber chickens and cheese heads when I was president of Pizza Hut, and rubber chickens when I ran KFC, and when I was CEO of Yum Brands, I gave away these walk the talk teeth. And what happened is everybody in our company started giving away their own individualized recognition awards, and it became really fun. It was a fun thing. But some people would say, this just isn't me. Like one of the things happened one time. Well, the great thing in business is when people literally you show up and you see things happen you had nothing to do with. Well, I come to work one day and we had this roving recognition band. A group of people who played the band instruments got together and created the roving recognition band. They're going around and they decided to recognize 5 people every month for being focused on our customers. And so they're marching around, and we are here to recognize you, big music and all this stuff. This guy comes out who was on my team. He was a lawyer. I know a lot of great lawyers, but so it's not a question whether he'd be a lawyer or not.
Right.
But he comes out and he starts screaming at him, say he's trying to work. And I said, I went into his office. I said, hey, listen, this is really neat what these people are doing.
Right.
They're here to recognize your administrative assistant, and you can't come out here and do that. I said, if you can't do that, and you're not comfortable doing that, then you need to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And he did. And and he went back to another company, and he did quite well. But it just wasn't his cup of tea. But I think when you have a great work environment, you either fit in or you don't. Okay? And I think one of the great things, if you read Good to Great, Jim Collins, he'll tell you that a great culture is like you reject bad bacteria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I'm listening to you talk, and I'm thinking about corporate environments I've been in and trained in over the years and coached in, and it's right on, because values hang on the wall. That's externally what you can say about who you want your people to be, mm-hmm. but until you can act those out in your behavior, it's only something that's hung on the wall. And the culture and the conversation we're having now is like a team, whether you're a sport team or a corporate team. There has to be focus. There has to be a continuity. People have to believe we're going in the right direction and why we're doing it. And all those things are really important, but you have to act it out. You have to do it in your behaviors every day. It's more than just talking about it.
I think when you do recognition and you have those behaviors that drive performance, you recognize them and you see more of them. Mm-hmm. I mentioned
absolutely.
That. But a good example is, let's say I walk into a KFC and I see a team member over there with a customer who just spilled a drink. Mm-hmm. She does a fantastic job making the customer feel good, cleaning up the mess, getting her another drink, making her feel totally comfortable. So what I would do is I'd go up to her and I'd say, gee, Betty, that was absolutely amazing what I just saw you do. Making our customers mm-hmm. happy is what our business is all about. It's one of our key behaviors we want mm-hmm. to do. You're a customer maniac, I can tell you that. Thank you for doing that. I want to give you this rubber chicken because you are amazing. And by the way, here's $100 because you can't eat a rubber chicken.
Right.
And but I could give away $100 because I was a CEO. But what I found seriously is the money has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that you watched. That's you saw what they did and you appreciate them for what they do.
Catching people doing good things.
Absolutely.
The right thing.
The right
versus reprimanding them because they didn't do the right thing.
Yeah. Now, I think you have to recognize bad behavior
absolutely.
Too. So,
it goes. It's like parenting. It goes both ways.
But your how we work together principles are really the key things that you want to have. And if people do things antithetical to that, like I talked about that one mm-hmm. person, then you got to coach them. Coach first. Hopefully they'll respond. If they don't respond, then have them go somewhere else and make people miserable.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, David, before we leave, I want to talk a little bit about marketing. You have some unique, that's your background. You went to Mizzou, correct?
Right.
And you did journalism, you got into marketing. So would somebody who's listening to marketing and understanding, what is it that makes someone stand out with all the noise today that's out there? What would you suggest someone do?
Well, I think that you have to have a real understanding of your customers and understand, I always say, what perceptions, habits, beliefs do you have to change, build, or reinforce to grow your business?
Can you say that again?
Yeah.
That's powerful.
What perceptions, habits, beliefs do you have to change, build, or reinforce to grow your business? Once you identify those things and you get your people aligned around them and coming up with solutions in that area, I think anytime I've ever done that, I've always had great success. So you have to be relevant. So the first thing is you really got to understand what your customers are thinking and, mm-hmm. and how they relate to your product. That's instrumental. And then you got to realize that people have very short attention spans.
Right.
I think people are only with you for about 6 seconds, mm-hmm. and so you got to simplify your message in a hurry and do it in a distinctive way. Easier said than done. All you have to do is watch the Super Bowl. And you'll see how many bad ads there are, and they're spending, $6 million for 60 seconds, and mm-hmm. it's like, but you go, how could they be so, wrong in terms of their approach? Because it's really hard to do. I can't tell you in 10 seconds here how to do it. Mm-hmm. It's really, really hard to do. But I always, if I could find a really good marketing person, I'd pick them up, drive them wherever they wanted to go, and just treat them like kings and queens because they can really make or break a company.
Under you, Yum Foods grew tremendously. Would you give that to the culture, to the recognition, to the people, to the right hiring, to the marketing? How would you balance it all
I think
out?
it's all of the above. We had a tremendous opportunity. We had 3 tremendous brands that had been mismanaged. PepsiCo spins them off. So we had all kinds of opportunities. Mm-hmm. We only had 20% of our business outside the United States. Okay, when I left, it was 75 to 80% of our business outside the United States. So we had a huge global opportunity. So we had a global opportunity, but our belief is that if you build your people capability first, then you satisfy more customers, then you make more money. Most people in business say, I want to make money, but they don't think about how to get there. So what we did is our number one focus was we wanted to drive people capability and make sure that people had the capability to get the results that we ultimately want by making our customers happier. So I think that focus and making sure that we had great people capability all around the world was the thing that really rang the register.
And that made it.
Absolutely.
Now, you won an award recently, the, let me see if I pronounce it right, Horatio Alger Award,
Right.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? It's a prestigious award. I do, because not many people win it.
Yeah.
And we were talking and we go, so when you win it, what is it? What do you do?
Well, it's an unbelievable honor. It's basically people who are recognized for achieving the American dream. Presidents have received it. It's a
Right. I saw the
incredible,
unbelievable names
thing.
there. Yeah.
It's for the Horatio Alger scholars. They bring in all these kids who grow up in cars and terrible backgrounds, and they get scholarships from Horatio Alger. And so it's you go in when you're inducted. They bring in about 200 of these kids, okay, and they watch you get inducted, and you get inducted in this Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas swears you in.
Wow.
And it's one of the most emotional things I've ever done in my life. And then you're inducted with 6 to 8 other people, and then you basically you do little seminars and Q&As with the Horatio Alger scholars, and but it's a great opportunity. My mom and dad came. My mom and dad at the time were 86, and they were there. And but it's I lived the American dream. I started out with nothing, and when I got married and when I was 22 years old, we didn't go on a honeymoon. I had $19 with my wife and I when we started out, in a checking account. We started our jobs, and one thing led to another, and I don't know how it happened, but I've had a very, very blessed life.
You call one of your books the unintentional CEO?
Yeah, the education of accidental CEO.
The
Bad
accident-
title.
the
Because
accident-
nobody believes it's an accident. I do, but nobody else does, But I think that's one of the beautiful things you can do as a leader is you can share your bumps along the way.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows a lot of times what you've done and all that, but they don't know how you failed. And I think anytime you can open yourself up, be vulnerable, talk about the things that you maybe didn't go so well, I think you inspire people, and they'll want to follow you.
I'm inspired by you being here and your energy. I mean, you left Yum Foods. You have podcasts. By the way, you got to go to the podcast because the education you get on those podcasts are unbelievable. Whether it's all different types. I learned about food. I learned about raising money. I learned about cultures. I learned about. I mean, I'm learning so much.
Yeah, I
from
did
the
with
podcast.
CEOs from Jamie Dimon to and then big time CEOs of Honeywell, different companies, Dick's Sporting Goods, Ed Stack.
Right. Yeah.
Really fantastic people. I also do different vocations. Edward Lee, a celebrity chef, and has his own restaurants, and we just had the Kentucky Derby.
Just fascinating.
Donna Barton Brothers, she's the jockey at the end of the race who always interviews the winners.
Is that on there now?
That's on there. She's on there. And then I did I did this guy named Jesse Cole, who's the owner of the Savannah Bananas. It hasn't been posted yet,
Right,
but
right.
this guy wears a yellow tuxedo to work every day. And
Marketing, standing
yeah,
out there.
Read his book. It's called Find Your Yellow Tux. And I tell you what, the guy
There you go.
he's fantastic. I asked him, did he get that idea from Colonel Sanders, who wore a white suit?
Yeah.
KFC. He said no, it was P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum, who wore a tuxedo all the time. So his happens to be yellow. But he stands out. But this kid is probably the best. He's 30. I call him a kid. He's 35 years old. But he's the best marketing person I ever talked. So when I post that podcast,
Right.
if you want to learn about marketing, listen to him.
Definitely will.
I would have hired that guy in New York second.
And you're one of the few people who got Tom Brady as an interview.
Yeah, I and Rory McIlroy and Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady is the best leader I've ever met, bar none.
Any one quality you want to share that you think that we could learn?
I just think that he has incredible belief in himself and unbelievable competitiveness, okay? And he knows his trade. See, a lot of times people forget, you got to be prepared.
Yes.
This guy's prepared to win. And he prepares his body, his mind, his
Everything.
his study,
Right.
everything. And if you sit down and talk with him, you learn about his trade. I mean, when I met him, I go, this guy is the real deal, okay? And I love doing that podcast because you see the real human side of him. That's one of the things I love about my podcast, and I think you do it here as well, is I think it's people really want to learn how people got to where they are, where they came up,
Yes.
Good,
bumps
bad, and
along the
ugly.
way,
Right.
and I'm fortunate to know a lot of people. I'm blessed to have a lot of people that I can.
I'm
when I
amazed
ask
at the
him-
names.
And I'm taking advantage of that. But all my podcasts and my blogs are free. I do offer digital leadership.
Let's
training.
talk about that. I want to end with
Yeah.
that. If you want to be trained by you, you have your own digital training.
Yes,
right?
I have two programs that we offer. One is called Essential Leadership Traits, it takes 15 to 18 hours to take. It's very focused on how you get engaged, equipped, and elevate yourself so that you can lead others. It's all about leading yourself.
Correct.
It's the best I know how to teach. I taught leadership for 16 years. I'm a student of leadership. I love it. I mean, it's what I get up and do now. It's my passion. I want to develop better leaders and make the world a better place because I think we need better leaders. And then I just did this other recognition program, which we're just wrapping up, which I think is transformational, which is on recognition. And I think any leader that takes either one of those programs can, I think, have a transformational experience.
Better than any other that's out there right now. I mean, you have certain.
I'm biased.
Well, because there's a lot of training and leadership going on who's never worked in businesses, but you worked and grew a business, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
and I teach the program, okay? Like the recognition, I teach the whole program. And then the essential leadership training, I do it with the former president of KFC, my chief people officer, and a guy who runs our human organizational development team. So it's world-class training. I'm biased. There's obviously I'm good friends with Ken Blanchard. He has his training programs, and other people do too, and they're good. But
what's the address?
It's just go to ogolead.com.
Ogolead.
OGOLEAD.com.
Any last comments?
No, it's great to meet you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's always good to hear. I think most important to me was how you were raised and that you learned recognition from your parents. Yeah. And it's so important to have a foundation that you can build and grow from. And they're still giving you recognition throughout your life. My parents are passed already, and I can still hear them in my head talking to me. So life experience, it goes on forever.
To close this up, for Christmas last year, I gave my dad a book. I said, Dad, I want you to write your life story. Mm-hmm. I got him an author, and it actually was published, and it's called Home is Everywhere because he lived in over 60 places in his life.
Cool. Yeah.
And I did a blog on him, what I learned from my dad. And, I just hung it up, and I got it framed in a special way and hung it up in my office just yesterday. And, I realized, Jesus, Mother's Day. Yeah. So I'm working on another blog. I'm going to what I learned from my mother.
Exactly. Yeah,
but
that's good.
I think, I've had an unbelievable wife, Wendy, who's just incredible too. But I've been surrounded by love my entire life, and there's no way you can possibly overestimate just how much value that really provides.
Mm-hmm. And how many people lack that today, which is
it's sad,
troubling. Yeah, it really
a lot
is.
of these Horatio Alger scholars came from nothing.
Right.
And they literally lived in apartments with no heat, lived in the back seat of a car. Mm-hmm. Worked. Went from foster home to foster home, but somehow they found it. Somehow they kept clawing and persevering, and they end up getting a college
You know,
education.
we as human beings are very adaptive.
Yeah, you can win, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet
glad
you
you're
too.
here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
David. And thank you for listening to Influence Today. And Influence Today was broadcasting live from Venture X at PGA Boulevard. Chet Tark, Terry Lyles, thank you very much. And thank you, David Novak.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.